Hi, I'm Jules from Bonnie Bakery. Today we're making tiramisu brownies. These are a super indulgent, chocolatey, and portable version of the old Italian classic. We're going to make super fudgy espresso brownies and top it with light mascarpone cream and a generous dusting of cocoa powder. I promise you, if you take these to any potluck, you will make instant friends. So for the ingredients, to make the brownies, we're using my Fudgy brownie recipe. So we're going to start with some dark chocolate. Make sure you use real chocolate and not chocolate chips or chocolate candy bars because they won't melt properly. And you want to chop it quite small so that it all melts evenly. We have unsalted butter, all-purpose flour, regular white granulated sugar, large eggs, vanilla, salt, and we're going to be adding some espresso powder to these brownies. The reason we're using espresso powder and not fresh espresso is because this is going to add lots of punchy coffee flavor without it adding too much liquid to the batter. Now for the mascarpone cream topping, we're going to use some mascarpone cheese. You want to be careful which brand you use. A lot of brands, especially in the States, have very kind of liquidy, soft mascarpone. So if you have too much liquid in your mascarpone, you want to just drain some of the excess off, give it a bit of a squeeze, and just get it as thick as possible. It should look kind of like this. We're also using powdered sugar. Heavy cream, you want to make sure it's heavy cream, heavy whipping cream, or double cream if you're in the UK. It has to have a fat percentage of at least 36%, otherwise it's just not going to be firm enough to hold its shape. Then we also have some cocoa powder for dusting the top, and I like to spike all my tiramisus actually with amaretto. This is optional. You can swap this for your favorite rum or a coffee liqueur, or if you want to leave out the alcohol entirely, you can also just use an almond extract. But I love the amaretto for that lovely kind of almondy flavor. All right, so let's make them. Put the chopped chocolate and butter in a bowl and microwave in 30-second bursts, stirring in between until totally melted. Then set it aside to cool slightly. In a separate bowl, crack the eggs and then add the sugar, whisk together until the mixture is pale and thick, kind of like custard. This should only take about 30 seconds of vigorous whisking. You'll know when it's ready when you can drizzle a little trace of the mixture onto the surface. Pour the melted chocolate mixture into the egg mixture and gently stir together to combine. I love this part because it's so satisfying to watch it swirl together. Dissolve the espresso powder in a splash of hot water and add it to the brownie batter along with the vanilla and stir it in. Sift the flour and salt into the batter and switch from a whisk to a spatula to fold the dry ingredients in gently until there are no more lumps of flour. Pour the brownie batter into an 8-inch square pan lined with parchment paper and smooth it out to the edges. Bake for 25 to 30 minutes. All right, that is the brownies out of the oven. The bake time can vary massively depending on your oven, your bakeware, the temperature of your ingredients, so it's really good to learn how to look to see that brownies are ready rather than relying on a bake time on a recipe. For these ones specifically, the top of the brownies should be really nice and dry, but also super shiny. And if you take a skewer or a cake tester or a toothpick and insert it in the middle, it should come out either clean or with just a little bit of chocolate on there. These are really fudgy brownies, so we don't want it to come out completely clean because they actually continue to bake as they're sitting there in the baking pan. So a little bit of chocolate is good. If it's completely coated in raw batter, then they need a little longer. All right, it's really important that we let these cool completely before we try and take them out of the pan. Because they're so fudgy, if they're even slightly warm, they will just fall to bits. So you just want to pop them to the side and let them cool completely. To make the mascarpone cream, add the mascarpone cheese, powdered sugar, vanilla, and amaretto to a bowl and beat together until smooth. In a separate bowl, whip up the heavy cream until it reaches firm peaks. Don't over-whip it or it won't incorporate well. Fold the heavy cream into the mascarpone mixture until smooth and combined. All right, so we have our beautiful smooth mascarpone cream and the brownies are completely cooled, so it's time to put these together. I have a piping bag here with a round nozzle. You can also just cut the end off of like a Ziploc bag, or if you prefer, you can honestly just kind of smooth this on top of the brownies as well. But I kind of like the way that this looks. So I'm just going to put my mascarpone cream into the piping bag. All right, my piping bag is loaded up. And I'm gonna get these brownies over here. And all I'm gonna do is kind of squeeze little blobs all over the top of the brownies. There's no good way to do this, just however you feel like. All right, that's all on. It does not have to be perfect. That's the beauty of this. It kind of looks nice when it's a little bit messy, and we're going to be covering it in cocoa powder now anyway. So I've got my cocoa powder here and a small sieve. This just helps it to kind of be nice and even. And I'm going to pour it in there. That was heavy-handed. And then just dust it over the top like this. You want to be quite generous with the cocoa powder, I think, for tiramisu. Okay, it's time to slice these brownies. I like to use this trick with the hot knife to make sure that you get really nice, clean slices. And all you're gonna do is kind of sit your sharp knife in some hot water. And we're gonna put it back in there and dry it off in between every single cup, just to make sure that every slice is really nice and clean. So I'm just gonna wipe that off. And then I'm gonna make my first cut down the middle here. You want to drag that all the way through the middle to make sure that it goes right the way through to the bottom. And dip the knife back in for a second. And you can cut these into 9 or 16 squares. They are quite indulgent, so I find 16 is good just because you have slightly smaller brownies. So that is how you make these tiramisu brownies. They're pretty easy to make when you see it all put together like that. And I am gonna obviously have to try one for you right now. So they are quite fudgy. This may be a mess, but it's worth it. That was a really big bite. I overestimated. It's so good though. It's just like the chocolatey fudginess of the brownies. And then that amaretto in the cream, it's so silky smooth and just the right amount of like almondy alcohol kick. They're just so good. It's like more indulgent than a classic tiramisu, but just wonderful. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about how to make these tiramisu brownies, leave them in the comments or on the blog post. The full recipe with all the measurements are on my blog, which I'll link in the description below. And I'll see you next week for another bake. Happy baking!